Ryan Bingaman with Turf Track and Court. I appreciate your time here this evening. I kind of give you an overview of where we're at with the baseball and softball fields. Just as a quick refresher, last summer you authorized us to do a study on the baseball and softball, looking at them holistically, seeing what improvements were needed, wanted, and desired. Put those studies together. I know the board talked about those quite a bit. Then in November, we were granted to move forward with the next phase of the conceptual plans. I would call it design development, basically. Taking those schematic plans, taking your ideas and making them into workable drawings. Since November, we have done survey on the sites as well as put the plans together and develop them. We've also reviewed plans with your administrative team a couple of times, got some feedback, as well as meeting with the borough and the Adams County Conservation District discussions. We'll get into the layouts. I'll talk about all those things as we move through the presentation here. The baseball improvements we'll talk about first. If you go to the next slide, please. Just an overview of the existing baseball field. That is when the bleachers were still there, just shortly after creating the stadium itself. The next slide, please. We developed the plans, basically looking at trying to develop the baseball field as a whole, utilizing the entire site for the baseball field itself. Next slide, please. It's a little bit bigger. Let me I'll just go through and look at the main points of the improvements. One is transitioning from the flat outfield fence from the stadium to a more unified outfield fence. Left field is about 310 feet, center field 350, and right field 325. Looking at including let me take a step back here. The way we looked at these plans was to maximize all the improvements that were discussed during conceptual and as we evolved into the design development phase. I know there was a lot of discussion whether or not we needed certain aspects of it. At this stage, I'd recommend we look at the maximum opportunity to improve. And you can always dial it back when we get into the bidding phases. You can look at alternate bids to see how your budgets work out with the overall project. And also for the permitting, it makes sense to do all the potential improvements now. You can always back off. It's harder to add as we move forward through the permitting process. So that being said, basically looking at maximizing all the area for improvements. Again, the outfield fence with a 10-foot warning track, a sideline fence, which you currently do not have with a 5-foot warning track. Sideline fence is definitely beneficial to keep your athletes from the spectators and provide that definition. The backstop, we did push the backstop back away from home plate, try to give a little more playability. I know there's been discussion as far as foul balls and carrying out the back. We are increasing the backstop height to 22 feet. Currently, you're about 16 feet on the chain link section. Your netting goes a little higher. Also for ball control, looking at creating a ball control netting system along Newark Street. About 160 feet of 40-foot high ball control netting. I can guarantee it's not going to stop everything, but it's going to stop a vast majority of the foul balls going toward Newark Street. Baseball fields, it's tough to have 100% ball control without affecting the game. There's an option to put a hood over the home plate, but then that affects really the play, the catcher's play, and the play behind the plate itself. So I do not recommend that, from a baseball playability standpoint. Other improvements we're looking at would be converting the existing dugouts, demoing those, creating a masonry structure dugout for longevity and maximum use. Also including storage units or storage rooms, if you will, on both the first and the third base dugout. The dugouts as currently designed will have gates on the outside as well as inside, exiting toward the field. That way you're able to secure the dugouts and keep unwanteds out of there during time when you're not using the facility. If you'll notice, we are including a lot of pathways. Accessibility is more important as we get through our, through the years, it is a big piece. We have a main entrance on Newark Street, we're putting a gate there, and then providing a pathway over to the existing field house to be able to utilize the field house facilities, concessions as well as restrooms. And then also putting a connector in from the existing parking lot to the field house to try to provide a much better connection from both the outfield and the infield. That hard surface pave would be behind the backstop as well, accessing both dugouts, again providing a link for accessibility to your dugouts. And then the bleacher area, we talked about numbers there, potentially about 150 seat bleacher unit, potentially with a deck for your announcers or the scorekeepers. The existing batting cage would remain as where it exists, but we would install surfacing to provide a more resilient and easier maintained facility. Go to the next slide, please. What we're looking at there is a standard backstop we typically put on fields. Again, it is 22 feet high to the top of the backstop. We found that's a pretty solid system from a longevity standpoint. Heavy chain link fence for maximization. Next slide, please. Just a standard cross-section of the dugout. Again, this is a standard dugout that we use. Masonry construction with a rubber roof. So really put that in. You should not have to touch that for many, many years. Next slide, please. Again, just a couple pictures of the dugouts. Again, next slide, please. Ball control along Newark Street. This is what we'd be proposing for your foul ball control, a 40-foot high ball stopper system. Also with a pulley system, that way you can bring that net down over winter times of heavy wind, just so you protect it and be able to maximize the netting itself. Next slide, please. Comparatively, that is a ball control system we did at Central Dauphin School District. The lower pole is 20 feet, the upper pole is 30 feet. So we're proposing 40 feet, tried to project another 10 foot on top of that. Again, a pretty sound system for foul ball control. Then we'll move, or are there any questions on baseball before we move on to softball?
We'll come back on.
Okay. And let's move to softball. Again, an aerial of softball field. It is just south of the running track. The orientation is not optimal. It's a little bit further east than what we would like from a solar orientation. And we'll move on to the next slide. I brought these up to show what we looked at the conceptual phase. The running track and the inside of the running track, the athletic field, there was discussion, do we want to ever improve that running track, make it wider, provide for a soccer play inside of the running track. Currently, it's an equal quadrant track, which only allows 190 feet, 195 feet of width for soccer. This configuration would allow 210, which is a more uniform width for soccer play. So the idea was to look at how that improvement or expansion of the track would affect the soccer or the softball field, excuse me. As you can see, the expansion of the running track would basically bump into the existing bleachers and the third base dugout. So that actually helps, justify or realize the reorientation of that softball to maximize. Next slide, please. And then this is the reconfiguration to provide the separation. One thing also to be aware of, the running track is approximately 3.5 to 4.5 feet higher than the softball field. So we do have some slope issues to deal with between the two facilities. Again, lending itself to the proper solar orientation for the softball field. Next slide, please. These are the developed plans for the softball field. Again, a backstop, which is similar to baseball, just downsized because of the geometry of the softball, and a very similar type dugout system. Next slide, please. Again, looking at maximizing the softball field itself, installing an outfield fence with a 10-foot warning track. The outfield fence would be 6 feet high. The dimension for the outfield is 200 feet. That allows us to stay within the building setback from your side property line as well. Sideline fencing, again, 48 inches high with 5-foot warning track. The dugouts, again, similar masonry type construction with storage rooms on both first and third baseline, and then a standard backstop similar to baseball. The bleachers, again, behind home plate, similar to how the existing layout is. Looking at batting cage, basically relocating the existing batting cage, actually a better location because the existing location, of course, is in left field of the new orientation. With this layout, again, accessibility, we also looked at adding parking. We're showing 44 parking spaces, and then hard surface paving coming up one to join with the running track, walkway, and then two going to the bleachers as well as both dugouts, again, to provide hard surface paving. Next slide, please. And that is similar to the baseball, but of course a little smaller due to the geometry of the softball. Masonry dugouts on both sides. Next slide, please. Again, just a picture of the backstop and the dugout. Again, the height of the softball dugout is 22 feet as well to the top of the backstop. And next slide, please. Again, similar type construction as baseball, so we're all in performance. Municipal regulatory. Unfortunately, with improvements, we always have to deal with the local municipality as well as the county as far as requirements we need to fulfill to get permitting approval. From a municipal standpoint, we went to borough last week and very well received from the borough. We did talk to the county conservation district. We did not meet with them, and unfortunately they're going to make us join the NPDES permit that's currently underway for your high school. Whenever there's a land disturbance adjacent to an owner's property, they tie it together. So in doing so, we'll need to go through a major modification of the NPDES permit, which is typically a 8 to 10 month process. So that kind of leads us into the tentative schedule and where we would be at with, as far as going through those processes. And just to run through the tentative schedule, April, May looked at putting the documents together. As far as the permitting documents, look at the engineering for stormwater management as well as erosion and sedimentation control. Submitting those plans in June to get into that regulatory permitting process. And then looking at July through March of 26 for the permitting process. The borough, I believe, will be able to use a grading permit, stormwater management permit. We'll need to do full land development plans there. That has not been confirmed with the borough engineer. He's a little hard to get a hold of. But I think the bigger job is the NPDES permit and getting that approved. Typically, water quality requirements for the NPDES permit supersede the township. So we feel very comfortable that that is a reasonable approval process. Look at, if you wanted to move forward, look at putting the construction documents together in January, go out for public bidding in February. Next slide, please. And then in concert with March municipal regulatory approvals, we would receive bids for your board review. If you get approval, if you want to move forward with the projects, in April we'd be looking at executing contracts, May initiation of construction after baseball, softball season, and I believe we could accomplish, project completion in August, potentially September, depending on, how Mother Nature treats us over the summer. That pretty much is a quick overview of where we're at with things. Happy to answer any questions or, continue discussions.
So you said you stuck everything in there, and then when we go to bid, we decide. And what was the reason for the parking lot? Everybody's so talking.
Parking, I was asked to include that.
Yeah. So question about the netting for the softball field. Like we're gonna do on Newark Street, the 60-foot high? Is there something to protect if there would be a parking lot put in there at the softball field? Would you let down third baseline?
There's nothing on there's softball netting at softball, right? There's
No, there was no ball control at softball.
only baseball 40 feet high on North
Right.
Street.
Now,
What I'm
if
saying-
they choose parking.
Yeah, if now,
There's no parking in baseball, normal
no,
baseball.
I'm saying at softball.
Oh, okay.
If at softball,
All right.
the majority decides to add a parking lot, will there be netting added or not?
Could be, I mean, if that's a desire, absolutely, and again, that could be done as an alternate bid to see, what the value of that is come bid day. And you may get to make a choice.
Another question about parking. Is there a way to put handicapped parking along the curb? Because this parking lot looks so close to the road right as it is right now. I'm trying to get it at the actual street, the parkway. I'm wondering if we can put, as a school where we can't do this for a road, but make that handicapped parking for some of the games.
Well, there would have to be some handicap parking there, because by law, you have to have X number of spots that are handicapped for parking spaces.
That would be,
Is that-
yeah, that would be a dictation by the borough. If you would put handicap parking on the street, that would be something the borough would need to be a party of, because it is a borough street.
Okay, I have another question. Now, because I wasn't here for the beginning of the high school project with what's being built and done right now on the backside of the track. If there's going to be parking up there, so we would have parking there for softball.
Yeah.
That we could to say, okay, designate certain areas for handicap parking at that spot, in that parking area.
I mean, keep the parking where it is and then like have a path to the.
Have a path, but also, I don't think there was any handicap designated parking except for along the building that they're redoing, correct? So could we designate closer to the track some handicap parking?
We could take a look at that, I believe that's our property we would have.
And I know that's not your project right now,
The
but.
question
just
would
thinking
be,
ahead.
are the slopes accessible? I don't, the parking lot elevation to the track, I believe the track is elevated. We'd have to see if that would be under 5% on the existing paving, or if not, then we need to look at handicap ramping installed as well.
Okay. That would probably be less expensive than putting a whole new parking lot in nowadays. Okay,
That's one of our major complications.
Okay.
The handicap, like,
That's really the
right. But we can do it if we have the handicapped ramps and things in, that would be a possibility.
And have a path.
Yeah, I think what I heard the gentleman say was, if the ADA requirements allow us to do that, we can easily do that. The complication comes when and if it's not favorable for ADA compliance and you have to do something more, more construction or work. So that's something that we can look at and research. That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't have it right now, so I don't know what the change.
Right, and it's simply the slope.
Right.
Yeah. We just have to.
I
do
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering what the difference was, because, again, we don't have it now, but we're talking about doing this, if we could maybe have a cost.
A lot of the stuff is grandfathered in because of the age of the school.
And because maybe already existing.
Age requirements coming to what, 1970, 80 what? 2011. Yeah.
Right.
Wayne, do you have any questions on that side? No. You good?
Along with that, would the parking and netting be a all add?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was mentioned.
So that it doesn't have to be in the bid. So like, and the permit, can you go a little bit deeper and explain why the permit has to be tied to the middle school, high school project?
Because that's what DEP requires. That's the simple answer is, when you do disturbance, basically the softball field, you're looking at the reorientation, you're gonna be over an acre of stories. Regardless though, let me back up. If you go over an acre, you're required to do an NPDES permit, if you're just doing a new project. If you have an existing project that has an existing NPDES permit, your limit of disturbance boundary goes to the property line. So the area we're working in already is included in the permit limit of disturbance. doesn't account for the disturbance we're doing though. So those require additional calculations for water quality controls. That would push us into making a modification to the existing NPDES permit. The baseball field,
The sediment ponds that need to be inputted, those things come into play.
Does RLPS or DCI have to be involved with
I don't believe so.
they would not. We can party right off the top of it. You have an existing permit, we would just expand that.
Hopefully, you know ways to expedite that permit process. We have we're in the middle of a baseball season, we love to have these things done for safety reasons and up to the fire.
Understand?
If we waited for
Ah.
construction to be over, we could push it way out if we just got permitting on our own after the building.
Yes, you would have to close that permit out to, and then you would get a new permit, so it really, it doesn't, it's not really an advantage.
I have one more question. The visitors fencing in the outfield, permanent fencing. I know that soccer, like youth, some of the youth sports practice on those fields. Are they gonna lose access to, or like that area? Because of course, right now in the softball field, the outfield, you can take that away when you put it back up. Is that gonna limit the accessibility of some of the other youth sports that we have to be able to use those fields?
That's a good question. We've got Shelley here.
Right
I
now,
know we
youth
use it so
soccer,
does soccer.
Yeah.
youth soccer actually uses the field while the fence is up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,